We'll give a little taste on Purim, regarding Purim. So, first of all, in Perek Chafhei Pasuk Yud Ches, it talks about the Kruvim. It talks about the Aron and the Kruvim, and it says that about the Kruvim that they have to be made out of gold. Correct? Mm-hmm. And Vasisa Shnaim Kruvim Zav Mikshet Hasa Osam has to be made out of gold. And the Mechilta says the following. The Mechilta says, Kol ha-kelim yochol lasim shamatchos chutz mekruvim. All kelim you're able to create from other types of metals, meaning to say, if let's say you don't have the metal that the Torah prescribed for it, let's say like the menorah. The Torah says about the menorah, so it's made out of zahav, gold. But let's say you don't have, like the Gemara says, there were times the Jews couldn't afford it or whatever. They would have it out of a different material, and then they got richer, they made it better until they actually made it out of gold. However, the kruvim has to be only gold. If it's not made out of gold, you can't make the kruvim out of anything else. So Rav Meir Shapiro, as you know, the founder of the Daf Yomi movement, he says a beautiful idea. He says the idea of the kruvim, as we know, that the kruvim, Rashi brings down, had the faces of children on it. There was a face of children. And children on the kruvim, on the aron, which represents Torah education, which the children, where the children have to be, we have to make sure that where's the focus of the kids, the youth, is supposed to be focusing on learning and Torah. As we know, the world stands with the hevel tinokah shabes rabim, the children, the learning, the innocent learning of the children. It says you don't even mavatal the children from their learning to go ahead to build the Beis HaMikdash. Let's say we have to build the Beis HaMikdash, right? It's the machlokes, the third Beis HaMikdash. How is it going to be built? Is it going to be built min hashamayim? It's going to come from Shemayim. Well, we actually going to have to build it. So according to the opinion that says we're going to have to build it, we can't ask the kids for their help. They're not available. There was once there's a Rabbi in Feresh Shalayim, I think Rabbi Ruben, he had on his door, such a sign like, if you don't disturb the children in order to build the Beis HaMikdash, so you have to know if you want to disturb the classroom. People knock on the door and they just think it's no big deal. So therefore, you have to understand when it comes to Torah education of the children, you always have to have the gold standard. There's no such thing as compromising their education. You got to make sure that it's the best education, and therefore it always has to be gold. Therefore, it can't be. That's what Rabbi Shapiro, but Derel Drush was emphasizing the way we have to look at the kids, the way we have to educate the children regarding Torah education. And therefore, I'm looking to you, to everyone in this room, to make sure that who's going to make sure that the Torah education of the future, besides your responsibility, you're going to have one for your own children, Be'ez Hashem, to make sure that you give them the gold standard and whatever you can do to make sure that they will grow to become Talmidei Chachamim. You're going to do that. But I want to know I want everyone here also to take the responsibility for the Jewish community as a whole. I want everyone to go ahead and demand. How does that sound? Demand sounds strong, Rabbi. To demand that the education should be much stronger than it is today. Demand that the system should be much stronger. Whatever the system is today, it needs to get stronger. And you know how it's going to get stronger? If people like yourself will stand up and get involved. If you don't say nothing, nothing happens. But if you go and you say, I think it should be better. I think we could do better. I think we could do more. I think we could, the kids have to know much more when they come out of yeshivas. When they go to Eretz Yisrael, by the time they go to Eretz Yisrael, they need to know much more than they know. With all due respect, whatever they know. But we got to make sure. And who's going to make sure that it's going to happen? Who's going to make sure that the thing is going to happen? You have to say it's upon you. Everyone here in this room has to I would like to encourage, take upon themselves to get active in the education of their children, to be on the board of the yeshiva. For what purpose? Okay,
I don't think you can get on the board unless you donate a lot of money.
Okay, that's true. But sometimes there's two types of people that are involved in the yeshiva. There's some people that are involved in the yeshiva, let's say the PTA of the yeshiva. Okay, the women are involved in that aspect. But a lot of times, it's the people willing to give of their time and give up their effort to volunteer to get involved in the yeshiva. So you have to be willing to give of yourself, and hopefully you can make a change in that education that your children, not only your children, the other children will have. And that's, you have to always look at the kruvim, look at the gold standard in that education. And the Tzra Hamor also points out the fact, as you know, what does it say about the kruvim? The kruvim, it says, V'hayu ha-kruvim parsik nafayim. They would spread out their wings. Spreading out the wings is symbolic of protection, like the SS al Kafi Nisharim, like the eagle that spread out its wings is able to protect its children it's carrying. So too the idea of the kruvim, the children, it's the children that protect the generation. It's in their learning. It's the tremendous chus, the tremendous merit to protecting the world, and that's what we have to remember. And also you have to realize, Nachal Kedumim points out a beautiful idea. The kruvim is on the aron. On the aron, which represents this, in the Kodshe HaKadoshim, which represents Torah, is the kruvim. And what do you got? A picture of? What are the image of children? When we go to learn Torah, what is the way that we're supposed to approach Torah? Just like children, with a freshness, with an enthusiasm, a newness. A child never learned anything before. The problem is a lot of times people approach learning, I know it already, I did it already, I've been there, done that, and so on and so forth. And therefore that's why a person is not inspired enough. But if we go ahead and we have the attitude like we're new, it's new to us, like a child, right? So therefore that would be, the learning will be a different learning. You ever see a Baal Tshuva? How their enthusiasm, amazing! Why is it? Because he hasn't been there before, and it's something new. It's a new discovery. But therefore, that's how we have to also approach learning, and that's the symbol of the kruvim, of the children. Now, if you notice, there's so much, Parshas Truma, Tesava, and then you get Vayakal, Bekude, so many parashiyos that deal with the Mishkan. And I think the point of the Torah, so many halachas I learned that from one letter of the Torah, one word of the Torah, so much emphasis and so much discussion on the building of the Mishkan. Now, obviously, if the Torah mentions it so many times, I think the Chinuch says the Torah talks about Shabbos 12 times in the Torah. Why 12 times? The idea of Shabbos, I presume the fact the Torah talks about it so many times is because the Torah wants to emphasize the importance of something. When you talk about something, what your parents keep on talking about, that's the very fundamental, that's the focus. So the most important things you constantly talk about. So therefore, I think the idea of the Mishkan, as we all know, today we have the Kalava Rebbe coming. We all know about Chassidus. We all know what is Chassidus all about. Chassidus is one of the main things of Chassidus is to take the mundane, take the physical, and to make it into a higher level. To take your money that you make, your houses that you build, and everything in the physical, and say make it elevated. That's a very big concept in Chassidus. The eating, therefore, there's a whole big thing with a tish by your Rebbe. I don't think we're having a tish over here. The idea of a tish is, and also to elevate the food, to say the bracha with certain kavanos and so on and so forth. So maybe that could be, I want to suggest the idea of the Mishkan. The emphasis and such elaboration on the Mishkan is emphasizing the physical. What is the Mishkan? How do you make a Mishkan? You take gold, you take silver, you take copper, you take wool, you take all different types of physical materials. And you take the physical materials and what do you make out of it? You make it a Mishkan, you make it a holy place. And that's really the job that we have in our everyday life. You go to work, you go to school, and you're going to be able to get a big profession and so on and so forth. Whatever you're going to be, the question is, what are you going to do? How are you going to elevate the money that you make? How are you going to elevate the home that you build to make it a place, a real Mishkan? As the Malbim explains, and when the pasuk says, you should make the pasuk Vasili Mikdash, you should make for me a Mikdash. So the pasuk also concludes V'chein ta'asu. The pasuk says, so shall you do. So what is that referring to? So shall you do. So Rashi says it means in the future also. You should make. That means that's referring to the Beis Hamikdash you have to make, and so on and so forth. But the Malbim says V'chein ta'asu. That's how you should make your own house. You should create your own house. V'chein ta'asu. That's how you should create your own house in the future also. It should be a Mishkan. It should be a holy place. What does someone's house look like? Same way a Mishkan looks is holy. You walk into a Mishkan, a person who walks in a Jewish home is supposed to be svarim, seeing svarim out, or svarim in the house. It's supposed to be other things that's a holy place. What do we bring into our houses? What are the materials that we bring into our house? If we look at our house like a holy place, I think there'll be a lot of homes will not be having many things that go on in people's homes, but things that are brought into people's homes will not be brought into their homes. Because they would say, I wouldn't bring this into a shul, so to speak, so maybe it's inappropriate, maybe look at my home as a very holy place. So therefore, we just have to sometimes think of our house also you should know in a certain university, I'm not going to name that university, there was issues with kedusha, with holiness in the university, and Baruch Hashem, they worked on doing certain things. So there was one guy's house. It was called the Holy House, so to speak. That's what they called the house, and it got a reputation called the Holy House. And they changed a lot of the ruach of the university. The Friday night, he thought he came to college. He told me this guy came to a Shabbos yeshiva program, and he came for Shabbos, and he said, Rabbi Friedman, I came to the college, and I thought Friday night oneg would be an oneg. I thought they're having an oneg, but it wasn't really an oneg. It wasn't really a Jewish thing. It was the whole thing was something else, and so on and so forth. And we encouraged him. Rabbi London Zitzal, my father-in-law, encouraged him, gathered to Bad L'chaim, my mother-in-law, to create a proper oneg and a proper thing. And really, it started small. And by the time he graduated, he had 100 people at the oneg, and so on and so forth. Made big changes, starting small. But they called the house the Holy House. So that's really what a house is supposed to be. What do you mean, holy house? The holy house? What do you mean? It's a holy house. It's a regular house. You look at the house. It's a regular house. The answer is no. The way you live, how do you conduct yourself in the house? The way you act in the house, what you bring into the house, and so on and so forth. That made it the holy house. So, the Bayis Kadosh, that's what I think they called it. It's only a few years ago. The guy graduated a few years ago. So it's not, it's recent history. So that's the point regarding V'chein Ta'asu. Now I think we're going to get a little bit taste. I want to share a few ideas of Purim that I think everyone should. We got to start getting our feet wet already regarding Purim. In the Megillah, it says Lo higida Esther am Mordechai. It says Esther did not tell the nation of Mordechai. He did not say that she was Jewish, because Mordechai commanded her not to tell. So the question is, why did Mordechai tell her not to tell? Is that a good question? Why did Mordechai? Now, so you could say, off the bat, you would say, hey, if you're going to become married to this guy, all the Jewish girls should see that a Jewish girl's married to this non-Jew. It will be a bad thing, for the community. People will go ahead and maybe will encourage, so on and so forth. But the Targum on the Mikros Gedolos writes the following: just as Achashverosh was angry with Vashti and killed Vashti, if Achashverosh would get angry with Esther, he would not just kill Esther. What would he do? He would go after the Jewish people as well. As we see many times, thank you, have a great day. Many times the way the nations of the world work towards the Jewish people is that when one of the Jewish people does something wrong, they're not just angry with that person. They want to go against. Puts all of us in danger. That's the idea. That's what happens when it says, when he found out that when Haman found out that Mordechai would not bow down to him, what did he say? I'm not going to just hurt him. It was between you and him, so he should just punish Mordechai. No. He wants to get all the Jewish people. That's something that we have to realize. We carry a very big responsibility, all of us, because we carry the Jewish name with us. And if we do something wrong, it's not going to. Sometimes they're not only going to be interested in getting back at us, chas v'shalom, or whatever. Sometimes they're going to want to. They'll look at the community and they'll start blaming the whole community, so on and so forth. The Ibn Ezra says a beautiful idea why the name of Hashem is not in the Megillah. Everyone talks about, it says Anochi Asta Espanai. Hashem says I'm going to hide my face. Therefore, the idea of Hashem isn't hidden. That's a very big. That's one of the answers that we say why Hashem's name is not in the Megillah, because it's the idea of Hashem, leading us in the galus, in the hidden, so to speak. That we have to realize that's how it's going to be today. Hashem is not in the open. We don't have Nevi'im, and so on and so forth. It's more hidden. That's one idea why Hashem's name is not in the Megillah, and the idea is you have to be able to see Hashem in the hidden, in the everyday life, in the historical events of every day. You have to be able to see Hashem. That's the basic idea that many people say. The Ibn Ezra, one thing I saw in the Ibn Ezra, he says, is because Mordechai sent the Megillah b'chol medinos. Mordechai sent the Megillah in all the countries of the world, and the nations of the world wrote this in their chronicles, in their Divrei Hayom Shalahem. And the fact it was written in their chronicles and so on and so forth, and these nations of the world were worshipping Avodah Zarah, what will happen is, instead of writing the name Hashem, if you would put the name of Hashem, that God did this, God caused Achashverosh not to sleep. Right that night, Balaylahu. Right, Haman's getting ready and he's coming. He prepared the tree. He's about to ask the king to hang Mordechai. And that night, Hashem, he couldn't sleep. Obviously, Hashem did not let him sleep. He disturbed his sleep. And therefore he says, and then he reads the Sefer Zechronos and so on and so forth. And he finds out that was Mordechai helped him and he didn't repay him and so on and so forth. And that started, and then that started the Gula, so to speak. But what would they write? They would say their Avodah Zarah woke him up. They would write their Avodah Zarah did this, their Avodah Zarah did that. They would say, Queen Esther won the pageant, so they would say, God, their God made it that she won the contest, so on and so forth. So therefore, just like the Kusim, instead of writing Bereshis bara Elokim, what did they say? Bereshis bara Avodah Zarah. They wrote Avodah Zarah created the role. So just like they substituted the name Hashem. They put the Avodah Zarah instead of the name of Hashem. Therefore, Mordechai was very concerned that they would go ahead and give credit to the Avodah Zarah we put in, and therefore, the name of Hashem is not written in the Megillah. So that's in order to give cover that Hashem's name should not be, in order that it shouldn't become changed. Also, I think the idea of Purim, the idea that we spoke about before about Truma, connect Truma also a little bit, that the idea of Truma, of taking the Truma and all the other parshas that are coming up, of taking the season of the parshas of the Mishkan come out during the time period of Purim, which Purim is, which we said is taking the mundane, physical, and elevating it. That's what Purim, how do we celebrate Purim? We celebrate Purim with the physical. We celebrate Purim with wine, with a great Mishnah, with a Suda. There's the whole question of halacha. Do you need to wash at the Purim Suda? Stay tuned. Maybe this coming Wednesday night in the Kosher Gaf, maybe we'll discuss Rabbi Yosef Shuva, Nechavadas. Do you need to wash at the Purim Suda? Could you be yoked to the Purim Suda without washing? Do you need bread or you don't need bread? But at the end of the day, there's a mitzvah of Suda. There's a mitzvah of Yayin. And how it's not supposed to be, the wine drinking is not supposed to be, I'm going to drink wine, I'm going to get drunk, and I'm going to go do crazy things. It's supposed to bring out the best in you, so to speak. If it's done in a proper way, and, people are supposed to, obviously, hopefully, under the influence of the wine, they'll sing the praises of Hashem more. They won't be embarrassed to sing the praises. They'll let go their praises and so on and so forth of Hashem. That's what it's supposed to be. So that's the idea of taking the physical and elevating the physical, using it for proper purposes. We'll just end with an idea that the Medrash says, that it says, in Mordechai, on the Pasuk, it says Mordechai was seeking the Shlom Esther. He wanted to know how Esther was doing. Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Hashem says says the following, Ata derasha shalom nefesh achas. You were looking after this young lady, you want to know how she's doing. One person. What's going to what will happen in the future? You're going to go ahead and have the schus, the merit, to seek the welfare of the whole, to help the whole nation. And that's what the pasuk says. Hodu d'ksiv, dorish tov la'amo, v'dov shalom, v'dov chol zara. That Mordechai was dorish tov la'amo. He went ahead and he sought out and seek the best thing for the people. So I think we see from this medrash a very important thing in life. A person wants to know, how do you become a Jewish leader, right? How do you become someone you want to make a dent? You want to encourage people. You want to go ahead and there's a lot of people out there that need to be encouraged and inspired and to grow. And you want to make a difference. You want to do something, right? You don't want to just keep, like I tell people, don't keep the wealth for yourself. Share your abilities. You have abilities. You have knowledge of Torah. Share with other people. How do you do it? How do you go ahead and be active for the Jewish community? It starts by one. As it says, you're seeking the Shalom Esther. Nefesh achas, you're after, you're going to be seeking, you're going to be able to, you're going to be Dorish Cholama. I think this is our responsibility that we have to say. A lot of times we say we want to make big changes in the community and we want to go ahead and, there's a lot has to be done. But I think we got to go one by one. That's how, and then this after this one, and that one, and that one, and then Be'ez Hashem will give the person the merit. But then you'll be able to do it in a grandeur and in a much larger scale. But we got to start We got to start. And that's where everyone needs to start. Say, how am I going to make a difference in someone else's life? How am I going to inspire the other person? How am I going to teach the other person, learn with the other person? You know, someone knows less than you. Well, come on, bring him down to here to learn with him, and so on and so forth. And that's chus. Hashem will give you the chus, hopefully, that you'll be able to do even much more. Because obviously, the more that you do, the more that you're able to be involved with the community in a very positive way. It's a tremendous chus. To be osek b'sarchet tziba, to be involved in communal service is a tremendous chus. But you got to start with one. I want to wish everyone a very good Shabbos, and I want to thank Rabbi Black for and your help as well. We have to close it off. Thank you.